Happy birthday, AEW Dynamite. Is that seriously? I'm going to start this video. Anyways, AEW Dynamite has turned 1 year old, and my God, what a year it has been. I have watched every single episode of AEW Dynamite. That's right, I consume something on TV that isn't NFL football, and I make videos that aren't just about NFL football. Anyway, this show has re-sparked my interest in the wrestling industry. I think it's a show that's reinventing the wrestling industry in many aspects. I mean, imagine having a wrestling show where you don't have a DQ finish. Imagine having a wrestling show where the guys, when they give a speech, they have to face the camera and tell you their scripted promo. And that's all they can do is face the camera and tell you the scripted promo. I can't turn. Oh, you're fired. You just turned away from the camera. You're fired. Imagine having a company where a 70, how old is he? Anyway, some old ass man isn't the decision maker to decide what you want to see and is so out of touch and who hires nothing but yes men around him. Imagine having a company that is none of that. Anyways, I'm not going to mention the other company by name because this ain't a piss on them video. This is a talk about AEW video. And I'm not a fan of that other company anymore, even though I was a loyal, diehard, fight for the V-man at the front lines type of guy for 30 some years of my life. But that aside, AEW is where it is at right now in my life. Anyway. How about that tag team division in AEW? Holy shit! Especially the pay-per-view matches, the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Adam Page. The Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega versus Adam Page was one of the finest matches I had ever seen in my life that has consumed way too much wrestling. Adam Page, even as a singles wrestler coming on the scene, someone who a lot of people haven't heard about. Kenny Omega for that, unless you followed wrestling in Japan. Darby Allin. I love what this kid does in the ring, but my God, some of the bumps you take, kid, are going to end your career faster than it's going to last. Anyway, faster than it is going to last, if that makes sense. Anyways, he's going to get hurt in ways that, aren't going to be recoverable from. Anyway, kid takes insane bumps. Jack Perry, MJF, who is a guy who he speaks like he's a veteran of the industry where he's still in his early 20s. This guy has one of the best heel mic skills in the game. And he's some guy that just came into the industry a couple years ago. Chris Jericho, at 50, is still getting it done. Jon Moxley, you know what you got with him. He's still that solid main event caliber star. Pac, even though you haven't seen him in the last couple months, that Pac versus Adam Page match from the first Dynamite is still one of my all-time favorite matches, not just in AEW. I love that match. It was just a great match to tell you what type of top-tier wrestling you could get in AEW. The women's division, okay. I'm not going to sit here and worship everything in AEW like it's pristine, but they're working on it. Anyway, AEW fans out there, would you say AEW exceeded your expectations, fell short? I mean, it's tough with the whole COVID thing and them playing wrestling, whatever you want to call it, in the empty arenas for a good 6-month portion of their first year run on TNT. But because when I first started watching them, I was like, oh, I'm just not feeling it as much. It's just not as interesting, and you even got to wonder how much the wrestlers were giving effort-wise, because you got to wonder how much of a wrestler gets motivated to, hear the cheer or hear the boo and have that motivate them, get their adrenaline going, get that second steam and, push through the match harder. I, started to fear if the wrestling was going to suffer because of that. But, I mean, the guys adapted, industry-wide. And, I don't think the wrestling suffered that much at all. I mean, atmospheric-wise, to view it at home, it was a different beast because, you like seeing those big pops, the big cheers, that type of stuff makes it the more complete atmosphere product. But that aside, it kept me coming back every week. Even when I started wavering at the beginning of those empty arena shows, it still kept me coming back every week. And that's something I haven't said as a wrestling fan in almost 3 years now. So for it to be good enough to spark my interest in the industry again and get me to be a regular week viewer again, that says something. That says something. And you may just say like, oh, he's just a hater of the other company, so he's going to throw as much shine on the new company as possible because he just wants the other company to fail now. Like, no, I and that's the thing. I want everyone to succeed. I love the fact that there is the other company's show going up against it on Wednesday night. I mean, I think they're eventually going to, come to their senses and move it to another night because their audience is just, a third less in comparison to the AEW show. But I want both companies to succeed because one of the hottest times in wrestling was when you saw Raw and Nitro going head-to-head with each other. It brings the best out of each other. Now, granted, I think AEW would still push itself because the other company has a lot of laurels to rest on, whereas AEW has a lot of name making and stake to claim in the industry. So they wouldn't want to be like, okay, let's put 3 jobber matches and then end the night with 2 mid-carders fighting each other, like a lot what you saw in the early days of Raw, like stuff like that. And the way that AEW is doing things with the whole no DQ matches, no, just face the camera and read the scripted promo, all that lame shit that the other company gets blasted for. It's just, again, like I said, it's just something fresh and new. And I'm so excited to see where they go in the future. I want to make some predictions a little later on this video of where I think, and some wild predictions that I think are going to happen. But it's just nice to see the new challenger appear, as the video games would say. As for some of the qualms I have with the company, because I feel if you're going to worship something, you got to at least say what's wrong with it. It's like the way in politics. Anytime someone, if I talk to them, they're overly praising of one politician over another, I say, you know what? Tell me something wrong with that politician. Like if you worship Donald Trump and you can't tell me one single thing you find wrong with him, then you're closed-minded. Like your opinion means nothing at that point. But with AEW, like I said earlier, the women's division, it's got some work to do. And that's not saying there hasn't been a lot of good work done. It's not saying there hasn't been a lot of good performers there. But it is lacking in the production compared to what the male end of things is doing. And like you could say that about any wrestling company. It's not like I want women's matches to be 50% and men's matches to be 50%. It's not like I'm saying that. But just some of the matches and the quality of talent. As far as what you see on the other companies' programs, they bury what AEW does. They absolute bury. They are multiple steps above what AEW does. And again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and that's not saying that we can one day be saying the way how we're saying like the tag team division is far superior to that other company that runs on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. It can happen. It can happen. But as for now, I think it's the weakest part of the show by far. By far. And some of the other ridiculous things the company does is having a title match established or showing that the direction of a title match is going one way, and then all of a sudden some random guy just gets done like, oh, we're going to have a title match next week featuring this guy challenging Jon Moxley. Like, an example of that being like Darby Allin facing Jon Moxley in a title match last month when MJF and Jon Moxley started, their pay-per-view push to face each other. And it's like, okay, I'm supposed to believe now Darby Allin's going to come in and win the title when Moxley and MJF are pushing for a match at the pay-per-view. It's like I'm supposed to be like, oh, I think Darby Allin could totally win this. And then he'll go against MJF, who he's had no sort of beef or build-up with. Like stuff like that is it's really stupid to do. You can have Darby Allin fight Jon Moxley, just don't put the title on the line. Because, who are you kidding? No one thinks Darby Allin is going to win the belt. No one. It makes no sense if he did. Anyway. And the whole, naming the title matches, I know Brian Zane pointed this out one time where it's the show will be ended and be like, oh, just announced next week, title match, Jon Moxley and this guy. It's like, what? He was just sitting there, Tony Khan's backstage saying, oh, Jim Ross, say that there's a title match. That's silly. That's silly. I get that you're trying to hype your next week's show main event, but it's just silly to do it like that. As you're going off the air, Tony Khan just announced this title match. He's just waiting back there to feed that. That's goofy. Anyway, okay, so there's really minor flaws with the company, but just the way everything else has gone, the no DQ finishes, the wins and losses, and like you saw with the 1-year anniversary show, the TV title match between Cody and, oh my God, I almost said Carrie Cassidy. Where did Carrie Cassidy come from? Between Orange Cassidy, who in a former life was known as Carrie, the hell was I thinking there? Between Cody and Orange Cassidy, I'm just going to call him Carrie Cassidy from now on, I guess. So anyways, Carrie Cassidy has Cody in a pinning predicament near the end of the match, or the build-up of the end of the match is to get Cody in a pinning predicament where the 20-minute time limit was expiring, to the point where the ref has to be counting the pinfall when the count from the match is going from 1 to 0, and the ref has to be halfway between hitting the 3 count on the mat. And the end of that match went so flawlessly. That is something where there is just such a fraction of room of error, and it looks completely goofy. Kind of like how you saw with the Rock, Triple H, the Falls, Iron Man match. What am I saying? The Iron Man match where the Undertaker comes back and beats up everyone. Shawn Michaels is the referee, and the time expires and a pinfall still happens. Like that's the type of shit that happens usually when you have this. We have to have this count happen. The second the time is running out. And anyways, it just goes to show how sharp the booking and the planning is, because something like that, you could easily screw that up and it looks goofy as shit, and it just totally ruins the entire match. But now it's like, oh my God, Orange Cassidy became a fraction of a second away from winning the title, and now he's getting a return match in 2 weeks. It's a great build for something like that. Anyway, it just gets shit. The mid card, and you could say Cody's an upper card talent, but Carrie Cassidy, as he's now known as, is a solid mid-card guy. Just the fact that there's thought put into the mid-card of the show to give them more than just okay, you guys are going to do this, he's going to hit his finisher and you pin him. That's it. A tie is interesting, except in football, when it happens with the Eagles and the Bengals. Anyway, it just goes to show that, there isn't one sole mind behind this. Like, Tony Khan's not sitting there and saying yes or no to every idea that's coming to him. He's telling guys to come up with their own things, have Jericho work with guys, have the Young Bucks work with other guys and girls. It's to figure out things for their matches, their promos, etc. And it's a big conglomeration of everything. And, there's not just one final, yes or no from one overarching power like you have in that other company. And it's not a senile old man that's doing it for you. So anyways, I just wanted to make a video just praising this company and what they did and how thankful I am that they've rejuvenated my interest in the wrestling industry. But, here's hoping that, the next year is even better. I went back and I watched, because they uploaded it to the AEW YouTube channel, the first episode of Dynamite, just to be like, I haven't seen this in a year. Let's see how much, the product has changed. And, for the most part, it hasn't changed too much. A lot of things are completely different. Like Britt Baker, for instance, back then was just a complete, excuse me, besides all the times she belched, she was just a completely lethargic baby face. And now they've molded her into one of the top heels, I would say, in the entire company. Just the total bitch diva that she is right now is one of the most phenomenal characters in the entire company now. Like, you watch that first episode, she's the extra wheel on the broadcast team between the women's title match, and yes, this is good. Oh, excellent move. Just lethargic baby face crap. Like, granted, she's relatively new to the industry, and a lot of people like her are all new to the network television scene. And just to see her evolve into this character, and it just seems like it's like, wow, is she like this in real life? 'Cause she's such a bitch that it looks natural. Again, I feel sorry for her husband who works for the other company if that's what she's like in real life. Anyway, yeah, but you see little things like that. You see the characters that have just evolved and how the company has, worked with people like Britt Baker and said, we're going to get a good character out of you. We tried that dry babyface shit with you and it just wasn't flying. You're going to be a total bitch and diva heel and it works phenomenally. I love it. Love it. Anyway, what else about that first show? Like I said, that Pac Adam Page match, phenomenal. Adam Page has only become a better wrestler since then. Pac, we obviously haven't seen him too much because he's still over in England. And the formation of the Inner Circle happened in that show. Jericho is pretty much on the same level and everything, but okay, let me just, this is going on long enough. Let me just go into some wild predictions here. As for what I want to see with the future of the company, I want to see the women's title situation evolve. And that's the thing with the women's division right now. It's the women's title and pretty much nothing else. I misspoke. I want to see it evolve beyond just the women's title. I want to see it be more than just the women's title division. I'm getting tongue-tied here. I'd like to see, the women get mixed up with just secondary storylines and do more than just be the random girl that's, standing with Miro and her fiance, and just, I don't know, it just feels like anything outside the title scene, the women are just complete side pieces, just not really offering anything. But so it'd be nice to see. It'd be nice to see that. See the women involved in more than just title matches. It would be nice to see. It'd be nice to see the Young Bucks get the title belts. I know they seem to be taking the modest route in that, we're part, management, general management, if you will, in the company. So I get that they don't want to send the message out there that we're general management, we can choose to put the belts on us and we can do it. So here we go. We're going to take the belts, because they've been having some of the most epic pay-per-view matches, and they're due. I like to think they're building up to this with this new heel angle that they're taking, but I mean, are you gonna have heels versus heels? Like that's the thing. Like I don't see them challenging FTR as heels, but with this company, you never know. You never know if they're gonna decide to do a heel versus heel tag title switch. Like that would even be something new and refreshing. I mean, it's happened before, I'm sure, but hey, it would be interesting nonetheless. Adam Page, I'd like to see him get a world title run. What else do I expect or want? Darby Allin, I want to see him get pushed more. I want to see. I'm not feeling the inner circle all that much. If that dissolved and they went their separate ways, I'd be fine with that. Sammy Guevara, I like to see him be more of just a singles guy on his own. I'll just see him just have a big blow-off match, just things get heated up between him and Jericho, and have Jericho put him over and put him up that next step. So, as for things, and I'm gonna make some. This is like some wild fantasy predictions that I would be interested in seeing happen. One, I want to see MJF win the title. I'm gonna predict it's gonna happen. This is my wild prediction segment of the video. I predict MJF wins the title. Not over John Moxley. I see it bouncing off of Moxley to just anyone else. Say Adam Page. Say Adam Page gets it. MJF beats Adam Page for the belt. And then on the first ever title change on TNT, you have MJF versus a somewhat new singles wrestler in Jack Perry. Yes, Jungle Boy Jack Perry loses the Jungle Boy gimmick, goes out on his own, and just wants to be Jack Perry. Sorry, Luchasaurus and Marco, just go do your own thing. I want to go off on my own. And Jack Perry wins the title in front of a live crowd to end an episode of AEW Dynamite. I think that would be amazing. Anyways, that's just a hypothetical crazy prediction that I hope comes true within the next year. Now, do I see Jack Perry being like, the long-term champion or something like that? No, I could see it be something like, it flips right back to MJF at whatever the next pay-per-view is, and I'd be fine with that. But I want someone to have that just super iconic moment on AEW Dynamite that you haven't really ultimately had yet. And that's the one of the things that's really, really lacking. Like you've had some like nice big debuts and stuff like that. Have that one iconic moment that ends up on that highlight reel forever. The closest thing I would say to that right now is Cody Rhodes doing that moonsault off the top of the cage. That was probably like one of the biggest iconic highlight reel moments that's going to go through like, the all-time time capsule of AEW onto Wardlow. And just seeing like a crowd explode after MJF has the title belt is just a bigger douchebag than ever, and Jack Perry pins him for it. Anyways, guys, I've talked on long enough. What do you guys feel about AEW out there if you watch it? Why don't you give it a chance? Like, or if you hate it out there, tell me why too. Anyways, that's me spouting off about AEW. I'm out of here. Have a good day, guys. That is all.